This is Chicken Ball. Come at us, bro.
Welcome back to Chicken Ball, the worst pod on the internet. Also a pretty shitty day to be a Spurs fan, and I feel like it's been the last 5 episodes that I've started the show that way, so welcome back. With me, as always, is Ryan out in Boston, or sorry, I know south of Boston, Massachusetts area, but what's up, man?
What's happening?
Not
It's
much.
another Monday, right?
Yep, exactly. And with Ryan and I from Seattle Spurs, the father of the group up here that I run with, Steve, second or third time on the show, I think at this point. But what's going on, man?
How you doing, man? How you doing? What's up, Ryan?
Yeah. Like Ryan said, and like you've alluded to, you know, with your response, we're all just kind of in a blah mode. But honestly, we're gonna rip into this and bring a good show because we need to. So I'll jump right into it, Ryan. I know, you know, you and I have been going back and forth, or not you and I necessarily, but the whole group's going back and forth in the chat about all these links. Lots of links right now. I personally feel like they're underwhelming, but, you know, does anything pop off the page to you?
No, I think obviously Nagelsmann seems to be wrapped up towards Bayern, so I think I thought that was going to be the guy, especially with, you know, we talked about it last week, but the week prior, Flick giving his resignation to Bayern, or at least giving them their notice, letting them know that he's not going to continue for next season. So, you know, I'm sure Levy's usually a step ahead, but it seems like he's a step behind because Nagelsmann turned our approach down. So, you know, I think it's back to the drawing board. I think this is why you don't have one candidate, you have multiple. But again, it's tough. You know, I think Rodgers is one that's admired by a lot of people, but he has a long-term contract, and that's going to be tough to get out of. And, you know, Leicester looks pretty good. Looks like a pretty good setup compared to us. So looks like they're going to finish ahead of us for a second season running. And it doesn't really make sense for him to make that move at the moment. So, you know, Ten Hag, I think that one's been a popular one today. And I've been seeing Ralph Ragnick too. So those are 2 good links right there. And hopefully they may just make the right decision at the end of the day. I mean, Pochettino was third choice for Levy a couple of years ago, and look how that turned out.
Sure.
So, you know, hopefully they just make the right appointment.
Yeah, Ragnick's an interesting one because I think from a managerial perspective, there's a little bit to be desired, but I think from what we need as far as the direction that our actual football is heading, I think if you get him involved as like a director of football or just in some capacity, I think that's a pretty shrewd move, to be honest. So that one gives me some hope, but more so if it's in the category of you know, a director of football type of situation. I don't mind Ten Hag either. My only concern there, before I kick it to Steve, is that he's another guy who develops youth, doesn't expect much of a budget, and knows his top players are going to get sold for profits. So it's the type of manager that we all know is flush made for the cycle of Tottenham. So we'll see. But, you know, Pochettino was as well, as you just said, you know, Ryan, and look at what he did. So we never quite know, right? But all a little underwhelming in my opinion. Steve, one name you mentioned off the air that I think it would be kind of good to touch on briefly, already in London, obviously bleeds Tottenham, Scotty Parker. You know, maybe talk a little bit about why you might be open to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like something I just read about this morning, that that name was being tossed around. The fact that, God, who's he coached? Like with the team he's with, I'm blanking out. Help me out. Who's he? Fulham, like they're like relegated now or something like that. So like, you know, he'd probably be nice to get back up, and he's got the backing, and he's younger, which is kind of like, I don't want to say the Pochettino formula per se, but he can at least bring that influence, like connect with the players and stuff like that, and, you know, hungry enough to push, and, you know, he's got nothing to lose at this point because he, you know, Fulham seems, you know, tight team, but for whatever reasons why they don't able to manage further is what is, you know, a sidebar. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think he might be good. I think all the other names we've talked about too, but it's kind of underwhelming. But Scotty Parker, again, no matter what we pick, it's going to be a rough couple years.
Well, Parker's interesting, and I'll kick this over to you, Ryan. But I think like the reason I say that is we I think we're going to come to find that sacking Mourinho was a disastrous decision. I think, and I'll just come out and say it. I think that we're at a point now where we really don't draw any interest from anybody. We have a board who's notoriously difficult to work with. We have a group of players who are notorious for not showing up at all and really just needing to be moved on. It's like a nasty 3-4 year deal in front of us, like Poch talked about. And I think sacking Mourinho just exacerbated that painful rebuild in a way that we don't even understand, because that was our pull, I think, regardless of the polarization that comes with him. So Parker may be an interesting link, right? Because he may be one of the few guys that would be interested in coming to Spurs right now, and simply because of that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, Ryan. I mean, do you think that I'm exaggerating when I say that, or being dramatic, or is there really not much
No,
to be desired at Tottenham?
no, I still think, I like Parker for sure. I do think it's probably too early for him, but at the same time, we just don't know what's going to happen with some of these managers that are being linked. So, I mean, I think he could be one that's probably, in terms of the short list, probably outside the top 5. But I mean, he's an option to be considered for sure, just based on the sample size that we've seen that of what he's been doing at Fulham. Obviously, if you get relegated, and do you really deserve to be managing a top side in terms of revenue and some of the players? It's a lot to be desired for sure. So it really does depend, on what happens to the other candidates. But I think he's one that, we can go through candidates 1 through 5, and he'll still be there. I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't think a top club's going to come for him. So I do think that he's one that we can literally leave towards the back end of our short list, and we could still bring him in. So
It's like a safety net.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Ragnick, as we talked about earlier, he's an interesting option. I believe he's 62, and for whatever reason, he was strongly linked at Milan. He went in there. I saw a couple, reports that he went in there for a meeting and stuff, and he literally told their board what they need to do, and they didn't agree with it. So is he going to come in and tell Levy, what he needs to do this summer, and Levy might not agree with it, and is it going to work? So at the end of the day, it looks like he may be right. As Milan is literally just the sky's falling over there. I mean, they were in first place for like 13 straight weeks, and they were top of the table in February, and now they're in 5th place, and they're just crashing. So crashed out of Europa, and they crashed out of all the other cup competitions. So he's looking right at the moment. But again, yeah, it all depends who they bring in and who's going to want the job. And are we going to turn over players? That's another thing too. Like we have some good players, but are they going to be turned over at the end of the day? Who knows?
That's a huge part of why I want a director of football, and I think he's a good look. Like you said, he did. I think it was at Frankfurt, Eintracht Frankfurt. He walked in, gave the board demands.
Frankfurt
they just parted ways, I think, right? And then, like you said, at Milan now, I read today that he, and you maybe already mentioned this, sorry if you did, but that he told them that they should not be giving Zlatan a new contract, and that gave him a list of alternatives, and they ignored him, and that pissed him off. And so there's a divide there, I think, and that's why the link has probably gained steam today, right?
Yeah, so I don't think he's an employer of Milan. I think he was like they were about to employ him, but he had multiple meetings with them, and he laid out his plan. And part of the plan, I guess, this is all reported. So part of the plan was moving on from Maldini, as I believe he's director of football there or something like that. And he's a legend there, so that would be tough to, that wouldn't go down well with their fan base. So I don't want to talk too much about them because I only know bits and pieces, but that's from some of the stuff that I read that's what was happening. And again, if Ragnick came in, he comes from that same branch. He influenced managers like Klopp Nagelsmann, pretty much all the managers that came under the Leipzig and Salzburg tree, and he can really build a squad and also a club. He did it at Hoffenheim, he did it at Stuttgart, he did it at Schalke. So, and again, he did it at Leipzig. So he can really, he knows the infrastructure and what it takes, to build from the ground up, and that might be something that we need. And you look at the philosophy that his coaching philosophy, his management philosophy. It's not of the Pochettino, Guardiola, Bielsa tree, but it's similar in some ways. And I think if we can keep Mason in the back pocket for a couple of years and he learns from somebody like Ragnick, maybe Mason goes on and coaches the U21s and he just stays close to the first team.
Yeah.
I think that's probably best case scenario for us.
Yeah, I love that. Steve, I think following up on that, we know right now that Levy essentially is, operating as a director of football would, at least it appears that way from the things that we read. We do have plenty of speculation that, he tends to come to blows, or not, at least not blows, but discontent, with his managers on decisions, etc. I think we need to probably shift our focus when it comes to our footballing decisions. Director of football, I mean, do you think that is going to make immediate impact if we were to bring in somebody that was a director of football, or do you think it's just not really going to matter because Levy's always going to end up twisting arms?
I mean, I think it's got twofold. You got to get somebody who knows how to manage him. It's like mutual managing. You have to kind of like what's his pain points, what he wants. It's the bottom line. But I mean, I don't want generalize Levy in a way that said like he only cares about the money. But it is his baby to a certain degree. I mean, the stadium, all that. So okay, he's got this 300-ton elephant in the room, which is the stadium. I mean, it's probably weighs more than that. But I mean, yeah, I think a director would help. That's the ideal situation. Get someone he trusts enough to kind of do what hiring the players, the right coaches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and let him handle the finances. I mean, he's hit that point where now it's finances. And whenever he comes in, it's like he swoops in and then just this cycle begins anew. It's like I thought we got past that with the whole AVB Sherwood cycle. But I mean, someone who knows the history of Tottenham, who's comfortable with it, knows how to write and just be prepared. It's like maybe a 3-year engagement. And, I mean, but yeah, I think bottom line is getting a director would help.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan, I'm just on social media right now. It seems like this Ragnick thing is picking up steam more and more and more. You think it's director of football or as the manager?
I have no clue. So, obviously I think he's been at management for a couple of years now. And I know like his last few roles, like the Milan role, like the Frankfurt role, those are more an administrative role, like a director of football or a director of operations. So, it's anybody's guess really. Now, if we were to bring Ragnick in and, say Ten Hag, I mean, I'm fully on board for that 100% because, you look at the management philosophies of the both of them, and then you talking about building, and Ten Hag is just he's literally, it's the Ajax model to kind of shift these players on like a De Jong, like a De Ligt, like we saw them a couple of years ago. I mean, they played some amazing football, and there was a reason for that. They had the players for it, and they played. Let's just put it out there. They played with balls. I mean, they weren't fearful of anybody. They beat Juventus, they beat Real Madrid, they beat some big teams, and they just played their style and they played careless. I mean, they absolutely battered us over two legs. If you really look at it, there was just maybe a 30-minute window where there was a miracle for us, really. And even in those 30 minutes, they still had opportunities to put us away. And I just remember Ziyech hitting the post and Tadic going close as well several times. So he plays a style of football, and that's very attractive. And like you were saying earlier, he brings youth through. But again, I don't think, if it's up to him, I don't think he's selling anybody. It's really the Ajax model that's letting him down at the end of the day. And I've seen some people that follow Ajax really close, saying how he's been unlucky the last couple of years with injuries. Obviously selling De Jong, De Ligt, those are two players that are crucial to his system. So You know, I think Ajax is leading the league again, you know, by a landslide. So again, I just think he's a great manager for us where we want to be. I think, you know, there's not many times where a club like Tottenham, you know, we're saying it now, but you know, an English club like Tottenham coming calling, and you know, if there really is a project behind it with Ragnick and things like that, and there's a budget in place. I mean, we do have a good academy as well. It's getting better, and we have a lot of good pieces as well. So, you
Yeah.
know, I'm being optimistic here at least, and a little bit upbeat, but I really think that's probably the direction to go. So that probably means we won't go in that direction.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, for sure. I can't disagree with anything you said, and I think it brings up a couple thoughts for me. I think we know, Steve, that the next decision that Levy makes is going to be crucial to this club. We were talking about it off the air and a little bit on the air, right? That as things have progressed as quickly as they have, we've kind of found ourselves in the shit, really in the thick of it, I think. And the club seems to be scrambling to get itself out of that. The next decision is crucial, right? I mean, so maybe my question is, am I exaggerating when I say that this decision could like make or break Levy, and he's really got to play his cards right? There's a lot of pressure from the fans right now. Regardless of anyone on this call or off this call's opinion of what's going on over there, we're going to see some protests continue to drum up without question. People want him out. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, man. I think we're all feeling that. I mean, I think nobody just is happy with it, but I don't know, you know, it's a case of the COVID blues. Everybody's been trapped in, so the people are paying more attention to all the warts that's part of our club, you know, and it's like good or bad, there it is. It's like now it's like that day. I don't want to call it day of reckoning. Again, I don't want to get over melodramatic about it, but we're in that. To your point, we're in that pivot moment where, again, is it more of the same? Is it more? I mean, yeah, I mean, we need to do something and get back to being stable because, you know, Pochettino, I think, to Levy's credit, says that we need to get somebody who's long term. He's not going to have to get rid of it in 2 years or a year, like, you know, last for 5 years. So we need something like that. And is there someone like that who can? Not so we don't want the same, like, you know, Pochettino was great, but we need somebody who's unique and brings that different style, but yet at the same time builds on what's been laid out before. Even Mourinho, I mean, he's laid out some good stuff for us too. It was short lived. I mean, you know, we all, you know, whether it's evident or not, but again, the top players like Kane and Son, those guys, they really liked him. They enjoyed what he provided. And the guys who weren't that top level were kind of like, oh, he's a dick. You know?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I mean, but you know, well, tough. I mean, what do you want? I mean, like, we all get in the jobs we're not qualified for, and if it doesn't work out, we move on. You know, quit bitching and just hustle. If you can't hustle, ask to be put on loan. Sorry, a little side tangent again. But yeah, my point is like back to me, I'm reining myself back in. We need someone who can take it to the next level, at least kind of build what's already there, what's been laid out, and take it and shape their own craft work.
Yeah, and the worst part about all of that, I'm just going to say it too, is like, if you look at our situation, we've got a very strong offense. We need to invest in the defense. We need a manager who's apt to be able to do that, bring in a new defense, get it where he needs it. And we need a manager who gives us some kind of pull to bring players to a club that is rudderless. And that's Jose Mourinho's CV in a nutshell. It's just like, it just grows more and more frustrating all the time. And, you know, let's be future focused and solution oriented on this pod and not just like bitch about what's happening because it's done, right? So I'll move on, and I'll do that by last point here. I'm looking at the table. We're literally 5 points off top four with 5 games left, and Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Everton all have a decently challenging run in front of them. Ours isn't cake either, but like, we still might get top 4. And Steve, I told you, I'm going to kick this to Ryan, but I told you at the bar, like, that would just be the funniest shit in the world. Just like total banter if we end up getting top 4 after the season that we've had. And I think maybe my point is that it's never been quite as bad as it appeared to be, right? But Ryan, could we actually do this, or am I just full of shit and just need to stop recording?
Well, we probably both are full of shit because
Yeah.
honestly, if you look at it, I think the only team that we play in the next 5 that's above us is Leicester, and I think it's the last day of the season or
Yeah.
one of the last games of the
Yeah.
season. So, like you said, it's the rest of the games aren't easy. I think Leeds is in there. Leeds has made it difficult for pretty much everybody the last couple of months. So, and again, you look at Leicester, you look at Chelsea. I don't think we'll catch Leicester, but you look at Leicester, Chelsea, West Ham's fixtures, and even Liverpool. There's some tough ones in there. So it'll be interesting how this all finishes off. I think some of the other clubs too are involved in Europa League, like Manchester United. So it'll be interesting if they rotate for some of those games, because we kind of do need Manchester United to win these games. I think they play Liverpool and they play West Ham, I believe, too. So,
Believe so.
again, yeah. So we do need them to win those games. So hopefully, they don't rotate too heavily and they keep chugging along. But again, it's there, like you said, it's 5 points off. Even if we can get Europa out of this season, so be it. I don't think it'll be enough to convince some players in the project or in the next project and convince them to stay. But hopefully something comes along where or some kind of miracle happens where we do get into the top 4. But I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, right on. Well, interestingly enough, everybody so Leicester in 3rd, Chelsea, West Ham, Liverpool, Tottenham, Everton. Out of those teams I just listed, out of the past 5 games, we have taken the same or more points than anyone else. So form's not great around us either. And the question with Spurs is always, are we going to capitalize, or at least this season, are we going to capitalize on those teams around us floundering, right? So who knows? But I'm just going to say that we've I don't know. It seems like the players are willing to give a little bit more, and I think that's a whole nother podcast as to the issues with that, right? But we'll see what happens. Steve, closing it out, what do you make?
Just one last thing. Yeah, if we get top 4, that's going to be actually a good impetus to get stuff solidified for that, or top 5, one way or another. It's like a duet start. If we get Europa, we're going to lose some guys, hopefully not Kane or Son or Hugo. But if we get in Champions, okay, at least another shot. That's going to find us, okay, we can't screw around anymore. We got to get this guy and just be content with it. And as fans, owners, everybody's got to be content. It's going to be rebuilding. It's going to be ugly as shit. And, and you got to stick with it. And I don't think we stuck with it with Marino. So that's my last cheap shot. So anyway.
You ain't going to get any pushback from either of us on this show. So.
Yeah.
All right, fellas. Well, I got a jet. I got to stop, but for myself, for the dipshits that didn't make it, and like I put out a tweet, Morden and Andrew were not here, which is, I think I said, is a very positive thing for those that seek peace and stillness in the world, because those two certainly don't seek that or provide any of it. But nice to have a show free of those two assholes. But for the crew and for Ryan and Steve, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Take it easy.
Come on, you Spurs.
That's being Ryan. Scott, I'll talk